Today is our third wedding anniversary. Orion Fu hasn't come home. Not surprised. I sent him a message. Where are you? After a long while he replied with 2 words. In a meeting. I smiled and sent him a photo. In the photo, Orion Fu, the most esteemed young master of the Beijing circle, was bare-chested, pinning a woman onto a messy hotel bed. That woman was a currently popular starlet. I had just taken the photo. I'm right outside the door. A minute later my phone vibrated and the words husband flashed on the screen. I hung up. He called again. I hung up again. It wasn't until the 3rd time that I slowly answered, and before he could speak I started. Orion Fu, I'll give you an hour. Meet me at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. We're getting divorced. An hour later, at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Orion Fu's car was parked ostentatiously on the side of the road. He leaned against the car door, a cigarette between his fingers, the crimson ember flickering on his handsome but cold face. He saw me, pinched out the cigarette, strode over and grabbed my wrist. His strength was immense, as if he wanted to crush my bones. Willow-shin, have you had enough? I didn't look at him, my gaze fixed on our clasped hands. In 3 years this was the first time he had touched me so proactively. Not in bed. Let go, I said. Come home with me. His tone was an unquestionable command. I finally looked up at him and smiled. Orion Fu, do you think that I love you so much that I can't live without you? I can't live without you in this lifetime, so no matter how much you fool around outside, I'll endure it? He frowned, seemingly stung by the unfamiliar look in my eyes. I said, come home with me. Okay. I nodded. Which home are we going back to? The villa you bought for that little star in the east of the city? Or the apartment you bought for that young model in the west of the city? Or going back to a hotel is fine too, after all it's more exciting there. Orion Fu's face completely darkened. Willow-shin. Don't say my name, I find it dirty. I pried his fingers off one by one and took out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago from my bag. I've already signed it. Once you sign we'll be even. Orion Fu stared at me intently like a provoked beast. Everyone around him said that the Fu family's heir had a cherished love in his heart, and marrying me was just a helpless move for a family alliance. For the past 3 years, I have played the role of a gentle, forbearing, and even somewhat humble wife. He's used to it. Accustomed to my obedience, my silence, my never going against anything he wanted. You think divorce can threaten me? He suddenly laughed, his laughter full of contempt. Willow-shin, don't be ungrateful. Without me, what are you? I didn't speak, just quietly looked at him. He snatched the divorce agreement from my hand, didn't even look at it, and signed his name with a flourish. Then he slammed the agreement hard against my face. Get out, he said. As you wish. I picked up the paper that had decided the fate of my past 3 years, turned and left. Walk into the Civil Affairs Bureau, stamp, get the certificate. A red marriage certificate, exchanged for a green divorce certificate. It took no more than 10 minutes. When I came out, Orion Fu was already gone. I looked at the small green book in my hand and called my assistant. Issue a notice that Project Genesis can be launched. Also have my pink Bugatti brought to the company downstairs. I want to drive it tonight. That car was a piece of junk that Orion Fu casually gave me one drunken night to make some little darling happy. He probably forgot that the car is registered under my name. Chapter 2. Prisoner yesterday, female tycoon today. The next day, 9 in the morning. The Nasdaq bell rings. A company called Genesis Technology was born, and it went public with lightning speed. In just 1 hour after the market opened, the stock price soared, and the market value instantly exceeded $100 billion. The entire Wall Street was shaken by it. All financial media are frantically digging into who the founder of this mysterious company is. 10 a.m. The Genesis Technologies official website updated. On the homepage there was only a photo and a line of text. The woman in the photo was wearing a well-tailored white suit, with long willow curls and a cold yet sharp look in her eyes. It was me. The line of text read, Founder and CEO of Genesis Technologies, Willow-shin. Fu Corporation top floor CEO office. Orion Fu had just finished a multinational conference and was irritably tugging at his tie. That young actress had senselessly made a scene all night, leaving him feeling disturbed. He had thought Willowshen was just throwing a tantrum and would come back begging him with her tail between her legs in a couple of days. For a whole day she didn't make a single call or send a single message. It made him feel like something was slipping out of his control. "Mr. Fu," the secretary knocked and entered, her expression strange. "Have you seen this morning's financial headlines?" "Not interested," Orion Fu said coldly. "But it's about the ex-wife." The secretary's voice trailed off. Orion Fu paused, abruptly looking up. The secretary handed over the tablet. On the screen was that huge photo of me. The title was written in bold black font. "Born overnight. China's youngest female billionaire, Genesis Queen Willowshen's net worth surpasses the Fu family. Orion fue ses pupilles suddenly contracted." He snatched the tablet, his fingers turning white from the force. The woman in the photo is confident, powerful and radiant. He had never seen her like this before. In his memory, Willowshen was always wearing plain cotton dresses, with her head lowered, as docile as a soulless puppet. Female billionaire? Surpas fuese? How is that possible? Investigate. He almost roared. Investigate. What exactly is going on with this company? Where did Willowshen get the money? Where did she get the people? He immediately dialed my number. "I'm sorry, the number you have dialed has blacklisted you." The cold, robotic female voice was like a sharp slap across his face. Chapter 3. My new love is worth more than your sincerity. Orion Fu is going crazy. He mobilized all of the Fu family's connections, wanting to find out the details of Genesis technology. The result alarmed him. This company seemed to appear out of nowhere with technological barriers unimaginably high. The core team members' resumes were as clean as a blank sheet of paper, yet they all pointed to the same mysterious overseas laboratory. And all sources of funding were so clean that not a single flaw could be found. He couldn't find any openings to attack. What drove him even crazier was that he couldn't find me. I moved out of our former marital home, and he couldn't find my new address. He could only see me through financial news. Seeing me calmly attend various top business forums, seeing me laughing and talking with world-class financial tycoons, seeing the men around me change one after another. Each one is younger, more handsome and knows better than him. How to please me. A week later, a top-tier charity gala. Orion Fu knew I would be there and he pulled every string to get an invitation. He wanted to ask me face to face. The banquet hall was filled with elegantly dressed people. Orion Fu spotted me at once. I was wearing a fiery red haute couture gown, the plunging neckline outlining a breathtaking curve. The skirt slid up to the thigh, each step swaying with endless charm. Beside me stood a man. A young boy who looked no more than 20 years old, with fair skin, clear eyes, and a shallow smile always on his lips, like a harmless puppy. He was considerately draping a shawl over my shoulders, his fingers intentionally or unintentionally brushing against my bare shoulder. I didn't dodge but instead moved closer to him, my red lips near his ear, whispering something. The boy's face flushed instantly but his eyes burned even hotter. Orion Fu's eyes turned red. He clenched his fist, pushed through the crowd and walked towards me step by step. "Willowshen." He stood before me, his voice hoarse. As if I had just noticed him, I raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Fu, is there something you need?" "Mr. Fu." This form of address was like a knife stabbing into Orion Fu's heart. He stared intently at the boy next to me, the possessiveness and anger in his eyes almost devouring him. "Who is he?" "My new friend." I reached out and put my arm around the boy's waist, feeling his body stiffen and his temperature rise instantly, my smile becoming even brighter. "His name is Atone, isn't he cute?" The boy seemed a little shy and leaned closer to me. This action completely ignited Orion Fu's rationality. "Get him out of here." "Mr. Fu, in what capacity are you ordering me?" The smile faded from my face. "Ex-husband? Or my creditor?" I released the boy, took a check from my handbag and signed a string of numbers. "Here's 10 million, consider it our divorce settlement for these 3 years. I handed the check to Orion Fu. "Take the money and don't ever appear in front of me again." "Do you think I care about this little bit of money?" Orion Fu didn't even glance at the check. "Oh, that's right." I nodded and handed the check to the boy next to me. "Afong, take this. Your sister will buy you candy." The boy obediently took the check and gave Orion Fu a provocative willow smile. Thank you, sister. At that moment, the ferocity erupting from Orion Fu almost overturned the entire banquet hall. Chapter 4. His hand on my waist is a forbidden zone, you can't touch. Orion Fu lost control. He shoved the boy next to me away, his eyes bloodshot as he gripped my wrist. Willow Shin, what exactly do you want? His strength was immense, as if he wanted to knead me into his very being. I frowned, but before I could speak, the boy he had brushed aside moved first. Shin Fong was no longer the puppy-like figure. His eyes turned sharp in an instant as he grabbed Orion Fu's wrist, twisting it forcefully. With a crack, Orion Fu groaned, forced to release me. Don't touch her. Shin Fong shielded me behind him, his voice icy. Orion Fu shook his numb wrist, looking in disbelief at the boy in front of him who had suddenly erupted with a powerful aura. And who do you think you are? How dare you touch me? Who I am is not important. Shin Fong stepped forward, his tall figure completely enveloping me, full of a protective stance. What's important is that you stay away from her from now on. I leaned against Shin Fong's broad back, a subtle smile curving at the corner of my lips. This show is getting more and more interesting. The surrounding guest had already noticed the commotion here, casting curious glances. I gently tugged at the corner of Shin Fong's clothes. Fong, forget it. My voice was soft, but carried a hint of subtle coquetry and reliance. Shin Fong turned his head, his eyes softening instantly. Did he hurt you? He reached out and gently stroked my wrist, which had been reddened by Orion Fu, his movements as tender as if he were handling a rare treasure. His fingertips were warm, with a thin layer of calluses, tracing my skin and sending a delicate shiver down my spine. I could feel Orion Fu's breathing growing heavier. It was a masculine aura mixed with jealousy, anger, and resentment. Let's go, I'm tired. I leaned against Shin Fong as if I had no bones. Okay. Shin Fong immediately put his arm around my waist, his hand holding me with an irresistible force, pressed tightly against the bare skin under my dress. His palm was very hot. So hot that I laughed inwardly. We turned around as if no one else was there, ready to leave. Stop. Orion Fu's voice sounded like it was squeezed out from between his teeth. I stopped but didn't turn around. Orion Fu, the game is over. Didn't you always say that a woman like me, even if I stripped naked and lay in bed, you wouldn't bother to glance at me? What's wrong? Now that I'm dressed, you're not used to it. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to his ears. I can imagine the expression on his face right now, it must be priceless. I felt the arm around my waist tighten a little more. Shin Fong lowered his head, his warm breath ghosting over my ear, his voice a little dangerously husky. Sis, stop playing around. I tilted my head to look at him. If you keep playing, his eyes fell on my chest wrapped in the dress, his Adam's apple bobbing, I'll take it seriously. I laughed. Reaching out, I patted his face. Good boy, I just like it when you take it seriously. Chapter 5. The surname you're so proud of is the carpet beneath my feet. The scandal at the charity gala quickly spread throughout the entire Beijing circle. Everyone knew that the Fu family's young master had been dumped by his insignificant ex-wife. Moreover, not only had that ex-wife transformed into a female billionaire even wealthier than him, but she also had a young and handsome boy toy by her side. Orion Fu became the laughingstock of the entire Beijing circle. The Fu family's stock has also been significantly impacted by these true and false rumors. Orion Fu cornered me in the company's underground parking garage. This time he looked much more haggard, with dark circles under his eyes, and his expensive suit was wrinkled. He was no longer as furious as before, just quietly looking at me. What exactly do you want before you'll stop? His voice was hoarse. Stop. I laughed. Mr. Fu, I don't quite understand what you mean. I've been working hard to run my company. When have I ever targeted you? Genesis Tech. He raised his voice. Dare you say you're not targeting the Fu Corporation? Oh, really? I feigned surprise. But I heard that several of the Fu Group's major projects have suffered serious losses recently due to decision-making errors. Can you blame that on me too? Orion Fu's face alternated between green and white. Of course, he knew that the failure of those projects on the surface was his own problem. But each time at the most critical juncture he was sniped by a mysterious force. He couldn't find evidence, but he knew that the force came from Genesis, from me. Will-Ocean, let's talk. He softened his tone. I know I've wronged you in the past. Whatever compensation you want, you can name it. Compensation, I said as if I'd heard the biggest joke in the world. What do you think I'm lacking right now? Do I lack money? Or do I lack men? I walked past him heading towards my pink Bugatti. He grabbed me again. Are you pregnant? He stared intently at my lower abdomen. I was wearing loose casual clothes, but you could still see a slight, almost imperceptible bulge in my lower abdomen. My heart sank, but my face remained impassive. What does it have to do with you? The child is mine, isn't it? He seemed to grasp at the last straw, a light rekindling in his eyes. You didn't drink it all at the banquet. I shook off his hand. Orion Fu, don't flatter yourself. Even if I am pregnant, the child wouldn't be yours. Have you forgotten? We had been separated for a year before our divorce. Orion Fu's face turned deathly pale in an instant. Yes, he hasn't been back to that house for a long time to avoid me. Our marriage exists only in name. Then whose is he? He asked, trembling, his eyes involuntarily drifting to Shen Fong, who was standing not far away. Shen Fong is still with me today like a loyal knight. I didn't answer but just walked to Shen Fong and took his arm. This action already explained everything. Orion Fu, I said, watching his distraught appearance word by word. The Fu family you are so proud of, your surname means nothing to me. It didn't in the past and it certainly doesn't now. Chapter 6. You know who's in charge when that woman kneels. Orion Fu walked away dejectedly. Watching his staggering figure, the smile on my lips grew colder. This is just the beginning. The real show hasn't even started yet. The next day an unexpected person came to my company. It was the young actress who used to lie under Orion Fu and flaunt her power. She had shed her glamorous image, appearing without makeup, looking haggard and disheveled. President Shen, she was stopped by my assistant at my office door. Please, let me see you. I told my assistant to let her in. As soon as she came in, she knelt down in front of me with a thump. President Shen, I was wrong. Please, have mercy and let me off the hook. She cried her heart out, tears streaming down her face. I sat in the large executive chair, looking down at her condescendingly. What are you doing? President Shen, all my endorsements and film contracts have been terminated, and the company wants to terminate my contract as well. I know you're behind all of this. I beg you, I won't dare to do it again. I picked up the coffee from the table and took a light sip. It's no use begging me, I said. Orion Fu was the one who promoted you in the first place. You should go beg him. I already begged him, she cried. President Fu. He doesn't care about me at all. He said he can barely protect himself now. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. President Shen, I'm willing to do anything as long as you let me go. She crawled to my feet trying to hug my leg. I frowned in disgust and stepped back. Just then the office door was pushed open. Orion Fu stood at the door, his face livid as he watched the humiliating scene unfold before him. He was probably here to find me, never expecting to see his little darling kneeling at my feet, begging for mercy. What are you doing here? I asked coldly. His gaze shifted from the woman to me, a complexity in his eyes that was hard to decipher. Let her up, he said. And why should I? I retorted. What right do you have to order me around now? I looked at the woman on the ground and smiled. It's not impossible for me to let you off the hook. Go lick Mr. Fu's leather shoes clean. The woman's face instantly drained of all color and she looked at me in disbelief. Orion Fu was trembling with anger. Will-Ocean, don't go too far. Excessive. I stood up and walked towards him step by step. The sound of my high heels on the polished floor was crisp and clear, each step like a stomp on his heart. I stopped in front of him, close enough to smell the mixture of tobacco and cologne on him. I reached out and gently traced his Adam's apple with my fingertip. His body tensed instantly, his breath catching in his throat. Orion Fu, do you remember? A year ago on my birthday I made your favorite dishes and waited for you at home. You came back reeking of alcohol with this woman. You made her sit at the dining table in front of me, and then ordered me to kneel down and wipe the cake crumbs off her skirt. Orion Fu's pupils contracted violently. Of course he remembered. Back then he only thought that humiliating me was a very interesting thing. That time you looked at me just like that. I withdrew my hand, my voice icy, watching me kneel at your feet like a dog. Now, do you think I'm still being excessive? I turned around, no longer looking at him. Throw them both out for me. In the future, no Tom, Dick, or Harry is allowed into my company. Chapter 7. The trump card you thought you had was the guillotine I prepared for you. Orion Fu was invited out by my bodyguard. From then on, he never bothered me again. He seemed resigned to his fate and began working like a man possessed, trying to salvage the crumbling Fu Corporation. But it was all in vain. Against the absolute technological barriers and capital crushing of Genesis Tech, the Fu Corporation was like a giant ship with a hole, and no matter how he tried to repair it, he could only watch it sink little by little. People in the Beijing circle were saying that the Fu family was finished. And I completely replaced him, becoming the most sought-after new darling of the Beijing circle. I moved into the most luxurious mansion in Beijing, with private jets for transportation. The banquets I hosted were the top social events everyone scrambled to attend. I lived a life of unparalleled glamour. Only my belly grew bigger day by day. The identity of the father of the child in my womb has become the biggest mystery in high society. Everyone suspects it's Shen Fong. Because only he is by my side day and night, taking care of me in every possible way. Orion Fu probably thinks so too. He completely disappeared from my world. Until 3 months later. He obtained something through someone I least expected. My ultrasound report from my prenatal checkup. The list clearly stated the gestational age of the fetus. Based on the gestational age, the time of conception was calculated to be exactly the night before our divorce when he got drunk for the only time, went to the wrong room and returned to our marital room. That night he treated me like his dream girl, acting wildly and uncontrollably. The next morning he glanced at me with disgust, threw down a check and left in a hurry. He thought that was a humiliation to me. But little did he know it was the most important part of my entire plan. Orion Fu held the ultrasound report, overjoyed. He thought he had the ultimate trump card. An ultimate trump card that would allow me to turn back and him to make a comeback. So he did something that caused a sensation in the whole city. He came to the celebration banquet for my company's first anniversary of listing. He booked the entire building opposite the celebration banquet venue and used countless drones to spell out a line in the night sky. Willow, marry me. Immediately after, he rushed into my celebratory banquet hall with 999 roses in his hands, accompanied by reporters from the city's largest media outlet. He knelt on one knee in front of everyone. Willow, I know I was wrong. I know the child is mine. Come back, let's remarry and give our child a complete family. He was full of affection, and the regret and love in his eyes were enough to move any woman. All the cameras were pointed at me. Everyone held their breath, waiting for my answer. They were all anticipating a prodigal son's return, a broken mirror mended, a reconciliation of the century. I looked at Orion Fu kneeling on the ground and smiled. I took the microphone from his hand and walked to the center of the stage. Thank you, Mr. Fu, for your heartfelt confession. I am very touched. However, it seems you've misunderstood something. I gently stroked my bulging belly, looking at him with a beaming smile. Who told you that what's in my belly is a child? Orion Fu looked carefully. What I'm carrying is the entire Fu family's, a death warrant. Chapter 8. My grand wedding. You are the only audience. The audience was dead silent. The ecstasy and affection on Orion Fu's face froze into a ridiculous mask. The reporters' flashes went off like crazy, trying to capture every tiny change in Willow's expression. You. What did you say? He asked, his voice dry as if he hadn't heard clearly. I stroked my lower abdomen, the smile on my face as gentle as a true Madonna. I must say, Mr. Fu, thank you for preparing such a grand fireworks display for my celebration party. I raised my hand, pointing to the words, Willow, marry me, in the night sky outside the window. It's beautiful, I like it very much. However, compared to the proposal, I actually have another piece of good news to announce today. I turned around, facing all the guests and reporters below the stage. Just now, we at Genesis Technology have completed the full acquisition of Skyching Group. From today onwards, Skyching will become a subsidiary of Genesis, specializing in the field of artificial intelligence. Boom. This sentence was more like a real bomb than the 3 words, death warrant, just now exploding in the crowd. Skyching Group. That is the Fu Corporation's biggest competitor in the field of artificial intelligence, and also Orion Fu's only hope that he has recently spent countless efforts on, wanting to fight to the death. He wanted to save himself by suppressing Orion, but I directly bought Orion. I turned his lifeline into a knife against him. Orion Fu staggered back a step, his face as pale as paper. He finally understood. I'm not kidding. Every word I speak is becoming reality. Now let's welcome the founder of Tianqing Group, Mr. Li, to the stage with the warmest applause to celebrate this grand marriage with me. As soon as I finished speaking, a middle-aged man walked up from the audience and excitedly shook my hand. President Shen, I look forward to your guidance in the future. I stood shoulder to shoulder with him, raising our glasses together under countless flashing lights. The champagne tower refracted a dazzling light, reflecting my victorious willow smile. And the man who not long ago was full of vigor and knelt down to propose, was now squeezed into a corner by the crowd, like a clown no one cared about. His proposal scene became my stage to celebrate victory. I didn't even spare him another glance. In this play he doesn't even qualify for a supporting role. He's just a backdrop, an audience member. A poor wretch about to be completely abandoned by the times. Chapter 9, Call me brother, and I'll consider helping you. After the celebration banquet, Orion Fu blocked me again in the underground garage. He looked as if he had aged 10 years in an instant, all the strength drained from his body. Why? He leaned against the wall, his eyes hollow. Willow Shen, how much do you hate me? Hate? I laughed. Orion Fu, you think too highly of yourself. Hate requires emotion. I don't have that for you. Shen Fong drove the car over and parked beside me. He got out of the car and opened the door for me, his hand naturally and gently supporting my lower back to prevent me from bumping it. Orion Fu stared intently at Shen Fong's hand. It's you, isn't it? He suddenly said. It was you from the beginning. You and he were in cahoots, you set me up together. He was like a desperate trapped beast, rushing up to grab Shen Fong's collar. Shen Fong's eyes turned cold and he easily subdued him. Mr. Fu, please calm down. I can't calm down. Orion Fu roared. What am I? What am I after all? Just a stepping stone for you two. Dog of a man and woman? I finally spoke, my voice very soft but laced with ice. I walked up to them looking at Orion Fu, who was easily suppressed by Shen Fong. Orion Fu, you don't even know who your opponent is, no wonder you lost. I reached out and gently stroked Shen Fong's cheek. Open your dog eyes and see clearly. His name is Shen Fong, same surname as me. He is the sole heir of the Shen family in Shanghai, my long-lost biological younger brother. Orion Fu's brain felt like it had been struck by lightning. He stared blankly at Shen Fong, then at me, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. Younger brother? That new love, who made him so jealous and crazy, who he thought had taken everything from me, was actually my own younger brother? This plot twist is even more unacceptable to him than me becoming the richest woman. No. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. I retracted my hand, my tone as indifferent as if I were talking about something that had nothing to do with me. Haven't you always wanted to ask me for help? I looked at him and suddenly laughed. How about this? You kneel down now and respectfully call my brother brother. Maybe if he softens his heart he might consider whether or not to leave your Fu family a way out. Insult. This was a blatant, undisguised insult. Orion Fu's face turned liver-colored, his body trembling violently with humiliation and anger. Shen Fong frowned, seeming like he wanted to say something. I gave him a look and he fell silent, merely watching Orion Fu coldly. The air was deathly still. I watched the intense internal struggle in Orion Fu's eyes, the smile on my lips growing wider. Kneel. Or perish with your entire family. Orion Fu, what is your choice? Chapter 10, Father of the Child? You're not even worthy to carry my shoes. Orion Fu did not kneel. His pride, his ridiculous self-esteem, overcame his desire to survive at the last moment. He just looked at me with a look I had never seen before, mixed with despair, resentment, and a hint of pleading. Willow, don't do this. He still calls me by my childhood name. I laughed. It seems Mr. Fu doesn't want this opportunity. I took Shen Fong's arm and turned to get into the car. The child, he suddenly shouted behind me. Willow Shen, the child is mine. You can't deny it. This was his last trump card. It was also his only remaining connection to me. I stopped and looked back at him. Is it? It's written clearly on the B scan. He rushed up like a drowning man grabbing at a piece of driftwood. It was that night. Have you forgotten? That night. Of course I haven't forgotten, I interrupted him. How could I forget? That night he pinned me beneath him, but he called out another woman's name over and over. There wasn't a trace of desire for me in his eyes. He only saw me as a tool for release. But Orion Fu, I looked at him, my eyes filled with pity. Even if the child was conceived that night, what makes you so sure he's yours? What do you mean? His heart sank little by little. What I mean is, I walked up to him, my red lips close to his ear, and said softly in a voice only the two of us could hear, that night, you weren't the only one who touched me. Boom. Orion Fu's entire world completely collapsed. His eyes widened instantly, blood vessels quickly filled his eyeballs, and his body swayed, almost losing his balance. No, you're lying. You're deceiving me. Does it matter if I'm deceiving you? I straightened up, putting distance between us. What matters is I believe he's not yours. As for who the child's biological father is. My gaze, past him, looked towards the endless darkness in the distance. He is a true king, the kind you wouldn't even be worthy to carry his shoes. I left those words behind and turned to get into the car. The moment the car door closed, I saw in the rearview mirror that Orion Fu finally couldn't hold on any longer. His knees buckled and he collapsed to the ground. His last hope was crushed by my own hands. The car smoothly drove out of the garage. Sis, Shin Fong asked in a low voice as he drove, about what you said just now. It was a lie. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes. I just wanted him to give up completely. That child. The child is mine. I opened my eyes, my gaze firm. He is only my child and has nothing to do with anyone else. Chapter 11. The Shin family of the Shanghai Circle. Have you heard of the name? Orion Fu has completely collapsed. Once the spiritual defense collapses, the real-world defeat follows. The stock price of Fu's group plummeted, creditors flocked to the door, and all partners terminated their contracts. The Fu family, which once held sway in the Beijing Circle, became a precarious castle in the air. And all of this took less than half a year. I never saw him again. I would only occasionally catch a glimpse of his haggard appearance in the corner of financial news reports. Until one day Shin Fong told me that the old Fu family mansion was going to be auctioned off. That was the foundation of the Fu family for generations, and the last vestige of Orion Fu's dignity. I went to the auction that day. I didn't go inside, I just sat in the car watching people coming and going at the entrance. Orion Fu was there too. He was no longer wearing expensive suits, but just faded old clothes mixed in with the crowd like a fallen ghost. He wanted to go in, but the security guard stopped him at the door. Because he didn't have an invitation. He used to be the most distinguished guest here, but now he doesn't even have the right to enter. I was in the car watching him quietly, watching him being pushed around by the security guards, watching him being pointed at by passers-by, watching the light in his eyes dimming little by little. Until the auction ended, a well-dressed lawyer walked out and went straight to Orion Fu. Mr. Fu, I am the lawyer representing Ms. Willow Shen. Orion Fu raised his head numbly. Ms. Shen has successfully bid for the old house, the lawyer said formally. Also, she asked me to hand this to you personally. The lawyer handed over a craft paper bag. Orion Fu opened the paper bag with trembling hands. Inside there was an old newspaper and several yellowed photos. The newspaper's date was 20 years ago. The headline on the front page was the biggest news in Shanghai at the time. Business giant Shin Group went bankrupt overnight. Chairman and his wife died in a car accident. In the photo there was an elegant couple holding a cute little girl. That little girl was me. Orion Fu's breathing stopped instantly. He suddenly looked up, his eyes piercing through the crowd, locking onto my car. I pushed open the car door and stepped out. Across the vast distance I met his gaze. Now, I mouthed silently to him, do you know who I am? The Shanghai Circle, the Shin family. 20 years ago the Shin family that his father used despicable means to human being, causing them to be ruined and their family destroyed. I am the only survivor of the Shin family. A vengeful ghost here to claim the Fu family's lives. Chapter 12. I will use your love to atone for your father's sins. The truth is the sharpest blade. Orion Fu seemed to have all the bones removed from his body, collapsing to the ground. His mind went blank, fragments of memories from 20 years ago frantically intertwining and colliding with the reality before him. He finally understood everything. Understood why I appeared by his side. Understood what my 3 years of forbearance and obedience were ultimately for. That's not love. That's the most vicious curse in the world, the longest setup. I walked up to him, squatted down and met his gaze. Surprised. His lips moved but he couldn't make any sound. 20 years ago your father Fu Jinghua, I said clearly word by word, used a meticulously designed financial scam to empty the Shin family of all its assets. He fabricated evidence, slandered my father and ruined his reputation. Finally, on the way to the police station he orchestrated an accidental car accident that ensured my parents would never be reborn. And you, Orion Fu, at that time you and your father were vacationing in Europe, celebrating the most triumphant primitive accumulation of capital for your Fu family. My voice was very calm without a trace of emotion. But every word was like a red-hot branding iron, searing Orion Fu's soul. I was rescued by my family's old butler at the cost of his life, and I was sent abroad in anonymity. I spent 20 years climbing step by step, founding Genesis, accumulating enough power. Then I came back. I looked at him and smiled, a smile that was incredibly bright. The encounter I designed, the identity I faked, the docile wife I played were all to get close to you, to make you fall in love with me. Although it seems you have never fallen in love with me, I shrugged, feigning regret. But it's okay, it's enough as long as you get used to my existence. I want to make you used to me, dependent on me, and treat me as a matter of course in your life. And then, at your most triumphant moment, I will personally take everything away from you. Just like what your father did to our Shin family back then. I stood up, looking down at him condescendingly. The blood debt your father owes will be repaid with your career, your pride, your entire life. Orion Fu, that's fair, isn't it? Chapter 13. Your empire was built with blocks I personally stacked and then toppled over. Orion was like a stone sculpture, kneeling there, motionless. His worldview, his life, his past had all been completely crushed into powder by my words just now. So, he finally found his voice, hoarse and unrecognizable. Those 3 years were all fake. Of course. I nodded. All the good things you've done for me, the meals you cooked, the drinks you shielded me from, the blankets you tucked me in at midnight. Was it all an act? Or what? Did you think I actually loved your stuck-up, holier-than-thou attitude? I scoffed. I told you all of Fu's core secrets. He muttered to himself as if he were insane. That's right, I have to thank you. I admitted frankly. Without you, my good wife, how could I have known so clearly where to start to make Fu's big ship sink faster and faster? You married me just to gather intelligence, to dismantle my empire from within. Congratulations, you got it right. I praised him like a teacher. I treated you as my closest person, but you treated me like a fool, a joke. He suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with bloodshot veins, churning with overwhelming hatred. Yes, you are a fool. I ruthlessly exposed him, a self-important, arrogant and conceited idiot. You enjoy the wealth your fathers plundered through bloody means and you feel perfectly justified. You toy with women's feelings, trample on your wife's dignity, and you're smug about it. Orion Fu, have you never considered that there might be retribution? I raised my foot and gently lifted his chin with the toe of my 6-figure high heel. This was an extremely humiliating action. He didn't resist. He no longer had the strength to resist. Your empire, I personally helped you fix the loopholes bit by bit, making it look more solid. Then find its only load-bearing pillar and with all my strength kick it over. Watching the blocks you built with your own hands collapse with a crash. I leaned close to him and whispered in his ear with a devilish voice. Isn't it especially exhilarating? Chapter 14. Lick my shoes clean just like you did to me back then. The wind blew through the empty courtyard, ruffling Orion Fu's messy hair. It also dried the last bit of color from his face. He was defeated. A complete and utter defeat. From beginning to end he was just a pawn in the palm of my hand. I straightened up, ready to leave this place filled with the stench of decay. But he suddenly reached out and grabbed my ankle. His hand was cold, knuckles white from the force of his grip. Don't go. He was like a drowning man, grasping at the last straw, his voice filled with broken pleas. I lowered my head looking at him. Let go. I was wrong. He raised his head, this once arrogant man now humbled to the dust. Willow Shin, I was really wrong. Please give me one more chance. Opportunity. I laughed. What opportunity do you want? You want me to let you go? No. He shook his head, his eyes filled with a madness and obsession I couldn't understand. Come back to me. I beg you, come back to me. I don't need anything, I just want you. How ridiculous. When he had everything, I was nothing more than a dispensable ornament to him. Now that he has nothing, I have become his everything. The cheapness of men is truly etched in their bones. Orion Fu, have you forgotten how you treated me back then? I remembered something. It was at the Fu family banquet when I accidentally knocked over a wine glass and wet the Persian rug that his grandmother loved most. He kicked me to the ground in front of all the relatives. He stepped on my hand with the tip of his shoe, ordering me to lick the wine stain off the carpet with my tongue like a dog. At that time I did as he said. Because I was an actor. Now it's his turn. Want me to come back to you? I slowly raised my other foot and stopped in front of him. Those spotless white high heels were infinitely magnified in his pupils. Sure. Lick it clean. I looked at him with the same cold, condescending and playful look he used to give me back then. Just like you did to me back then. Time seemed to stand still at that moment. Humiliation washed over Orion Fu like a tide. He looked at my shoes, then at my face, his body trembling violently. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down as if he were making the most difficult decision of his life. I didn't urge him, just waited patiently. Waiting for the moment when he would personally crush his last shred of dignity into the mud. Chapter 15. Goodbye Orion Fu. Hello my world. Orion Fu ultimately didn't go through with it. He simply knelt there like a statue that had lost its soul, unmoving as the wind and rain battered him. I retracted my foot, completely losing interest in continuing to play with him. A man who can abandon his dignity is no longer worthy of being my opponent. I turned around, got in the car and sped away. From then on, I never saw Orion Fu again. I heard he went mad. Sometimes lucid, sometimes confused. When lucid, he would run to every place we had been together, searching for me like a madman. When confused, he would hold a pillow, murmuring my name, crying and laughing. The Fu family, a once prominent name in Beijing's elite circles, had become a thing of the past. 6 months later, I gave birth to a boy in a private hospital in Paris. He was healthy and adorable. There was a hint of Orion Fu in his eyes and brows. But so what? Shin Fong held the child and asked me carefully, Sis, give him a name. I looked at the bright sunshine outside the window and thought for a moment. Let's call him Shin Yen. The Nyen in commemoration. He won't take the Fu surname, he'll take my surname Shin. He is the continuation of my Shin family bloodline, and in this 20-year-long revenge of mine, the only spoil of war. As for that man I destroyed with my own hands and his ridiculous past, it's just a forgotten prelude in my magnificent life. I held my child and walked out of the hospital. Outside was my brand new world. Goodbye, Orion Fu. Hello my new century. The end. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be bringing you new and exciting content every week, so don't miss out. Also, feel free to leave your thoughts and feelings in the comments section so we can discuss and share ideas together. Remember to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any story updates. Thank you all for your support and we'll see you next time.